Does this not look like the top of a massive building or what? This thing looks like it could be so much bigger underground than we can see. This is the Frederick's Church, or otherwise known as the Marble Church. And why would this thing be called the Marble Church? Well, because pretty much the entire thing is made of pure marble, including the exterior facade and much of the interior. Located in Copenhagen, Denmark, the foundation stone was set by King Frederick V on October 31st, 1749. He didn't build it, and they didn't give us a construction company or tell us how many horses brought the materials from the mysterious land. And of course, our architect is dead again 5 years after we get the project started. And I'll get back to this guy later in this episode. So who can step in and finish this marble project in the 1700s? Could anyone? Well, of course they'll find somebody, because everybody was born with this in their DNA in the 17 and 1800s. But they went home to suffer in their log cabins in the winters for some reason. But we were never supposed to question that. So the project was taken over by Andreas Frederick Krieger, who looks a lot like William Strickland and the Austin Powers guy from episode 40. And just add some glasses. He can Uber his way over to America with Christopher Columbus on the Santa Marina. Side note that these are not real pictures. They are paintings. Now, can we zoom in on this map? Can we all see what is located right next to this marble palace? An incredible star fort. This entire area is very interesting. Very clearly a city where the past civilization was thriving. And so many things look burned. It's very strange. All right, now let's go check out this area on Google Earth. I want to show you all the surrounding area and how cool this star fort really looks. And these buildings that are, in my opinion, connected to the Frederick's Church. I'm sure that all of this stuff is connected through tunnels. We have shown this in episode 42. Now, let's go check out the Frederick's Church and let's see what we have here, right on the front of their church, showing us that this was linked to everything that we have talked about. Linked to Grand Tartaria. The Griffin was their symbol. It was right on their flag. And then Russia's flag shows the man on the horse trampling and stabbing the Griffin, as if to say that they have taken over the Tartarian Empire. And this current civilization stole all of their buildings and is claiming them as their own to us. And these buildings were the past civilization's work. We have found the Griffin symbol on buildings all over the world. This technology was worldwide. This structure is massive and looks like it could be 4 times the size underground. This is incredible. I'm gonna do my best to absolutely blow your mind right now. Here we go. So this structure is made of pure marble in the 1700s. And we all know about the construction process and how they need horses and wagons to pull this marble from somewhere to get it to the site. The marble is not just sitting there on the site, ready for them to put it into place. They have to actually get it there. And this is something that we have talked about a lot. And it's worth noting again, because I asked the AI ChatGPT how many pounds of marble was used in this project to build the Frederick's Church in the 1700s. A time period where people wrote letters with feathers. A time period before cars, and planes and trains and light bulbs and the rest. And the answer was shocking and completely destroys any possibility that this narrative could be true. The size of the church, the Marble Church, is a sizable structure with a large dome, and its exterior and interior are extensively clad in marble. It's likely that many thousands of tons of marble were used in its construction, and that's not even close to it. Wait for it. Marble has an approximate density of around 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter, or 2,700 kilograms per cubic meter. This means that 1 cubic meter of marble weighs approximately 2.7 metric tons. With these considerations, the amount of marble used in pounds could be in the range of several millions of pounds. Are you kidding me? Do you know how long it would take to move several millions of pounds of marble in the 1700s? Who was responsible for this? Why is this not even close to mentioned? So in order to fully understand this, we need to know where this marble is coming from. If it's like 20 feet away, then I'll be quiet. But it better be 20 feet away. Here we go. The marble used in the construction of the Marble Church in Copenhagen, Denmark, primarily came from quarries located in various parts of Europe. The specific quarries that provided the marble for the church varied, but marble was sourced from different regions to meet the project's needs. Carrara, Italy, Drammen, Norway, and other places such as Greece, Spain, and Portugal. So let's see what this looks like on a map from Drammen to Frederick's church. 132 hours of walking? Right, okay. So we all understand that horses need water, right? In fact, we have proved this, that 30 horses would need approximately 300 gallons of water per day in episode 42. So this is absolutely insane. So let's check the other locations. And hopefully these are closer for the horses' sake. Now, how far is Carrara, Italy from Copenhagen, Denmark? Oh, okay. Only a 346-hour walk. They did not transport millions of pounds of anything from Carrara, Italy to Copenhagen. Before we go any further, did any of us miss it? This was so easy for them that they could be picky with which color marble they desired. Greece is not happening either. That is 535 hours away in the 1700s. Pretty much the same thing with Spain. And our last hope is Portugal. Ah, dang, even further. Only 25 days, non-stop walk. So all of this being said, let's just use common sense here. This story is ridiculous. It doesn't make any logical sense. You can't ride a horse for a month straight to bring a little bit of marble to the site. How much marble could one horse even bring if it did finally get there? What makes more sense? A month-long marble trip over and over and over for decades with millions of gallons of water tagging along the side of the wagon? Or a previous civilization had this construction process down. They were more advanced than we are. And this horse and wagon nonsense is a complete and total lie. Based on these logistics that are based on factual evidence, you can decide. You no longer need to listen to the crazy narrative about horses and wagons carrying marble from Spain to Copenhagen. There's a much more logical alternative now that uses common sense and actually asks regular questions that need to be answered. Like, how many pounds of marble was used? Where did it come from? How many horses? How many men? Once the millions of pounds of marble is at the site, then what? Who was trained to put the pieces together in the 1700s? Did they have separate horses to carry the thousands of pounds of water that the horses would need all along the trail? It's incredible stuff. We are told that Frederick's church has the largest dome in Scandinavia with a span of 31 meters. And the inspiration was probably St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. It might be, but who knows? What a joke. So I have suggested in the past that AI has created 99% of these so-called mainstream narratives with reoccurring characters with the same themes and the same verbiage. Birthdays and dates of construction, exactly the same. And here we go again, with another example that in my opinion proves this. We are told that in 1740 the church was designed in the district of Copenhagen, named Frederick Staden. Then they name the church Frederick's Church and say that the king laid the first stone. Well, what do you know? His name is also Frederick, and the original plans for the church were abandoned by Johann Frederick. What? Then in 1874, Andreas Frederick sold the ruins. Are they joking at this point? And to top it off, Andreas sold it to Carl Frederick. My mind is blown. I don't know about you guys. Like, are you kidding me? This is shocking. Honestly, what more needs to be said? I know we have done it before, but I think we just proved that it's all complete nonsense right there. I was pretty surprised how many times I needed to screenshot that exact same name. This is crazy. How have we accepted this for so many years? What was just shown to us is not acceptable in my mind. That isn't someone being honest with me. It's not even close. And that's not even close to mathematically possible in real life. To have the exact name for so many major key points for such a major building, right in the beginning of the story. Could you imagine building a building now and you read the narrative in 300 years and it says, my lunch break sold the building to King Lunchbreak, then breaks his leg, and the king sends him lunch, and the building is filled with millions of pounds of marble, and from thousands of miles away, brought to you by horses and wagons. But forget to tell you how many horses are men, of course. It's absolute nonsense. Now, as promised from earlier, and I'm gonna butcher this name, but here we go. I'm gonna get back to this Nicola Egdefid guy, the Danish architect, who supposedly designed Frederick's church, and of course, died 5 years after the project began. As we have seen so many times in other narratives, the narrator is using this guy to explain away 4 other old world buildings. So he had these horses on marble trips all over the world for just this Frederick's church. And I thought that was all he was up to in the 1700s. So here we are just gonna prove how ridiculous this narrative really is. During the exact same time period, in the 1700s, when they were supposed to have no roads, no cars, no trains, no planes, no light bulbs, and living in wooden sheds, freezing in the winters and suffering, we have this genius that I'm guessing none of us have ever heard about. They pin this guy as the architect of the following: the Amalienborg Palace, Malka's Mansion, Lederborg Palace, and Christianborg Palace. The amount of materials would be just insane. And which stone carving mastermind was in charge of making these pillars in the inside? All during the exact same time period in the 1700s. How much closer to just saying that they're lying could this get? Oh, just so we all know it's from the past civilization. If you've seen my first 42 episodes, you'll enjoy this one a lot. Let's close the book on this nonsense in Denmark once and for all. As a community, we know too much now. We are given a bunch of nonsense in this fake story. And then we get to the main point and the nod to the hidden group that this is in fact from the old world. The palace today bears witness to 3 eras of Danish architecture, so they say, as a result of 2 serious fires. Unbelievable. It's all over the world. The first fire occurred in 1794. And the second fire in 1884. Let's be clear, this is a nod in my opinion. This is not an actual event that took place. This is simply added to the narratives to show which building is from the past civilization, and the fire story gives it all away. All over the world, each and every time. It's just incredible. As for the fires that happen today, and ones that you can actually see with our eyes, they are destroying these buildings right in front of our faces. No need to place blame on anyone. And then they go ahead and collect the insurance check, such as the Windsor Castle. On November 20th, 1992, you get another fire in an old world building, this time destroying 115 rooms. And how does this fire start? Remember the old story of the faulty electrical switch is always a good one. This time it is a faulty spotlight that lit the curtain on fire. What a joke. This isn't working anymore. At all. Just completely destroying the past civilization's work. These pictures were sent over to me by our friend Steve, and they are all from the city of Budapest, located in Hungary, which to this point in my research, and in my opinion, is the most incredible city in the world, as far as these old world buildings go. I think it is important to stop and look at these structures once in a while. After everything that we have seen, and everything that we have learned, and everything that we know about the fake stories, the fake narratives and the fake characters, and just appreciate what is still here of the past civilization that we can still see with our eyes. Incredible stonework. Entire cities that simply don't belong in our ridiculous timeline. Repurposed buildings. Explanations and dates that don't make any logical sense. It's incredible stuff. I will be going on a trip to see over 15 buildings that, in my opinion, based on facts, are built from the past civilization. Did you think it was crazy to think these buildings were all bigger than you can see? Did you think they were just AI generated? Are you ready to have your mind blown? Call it what you want. Being at the right place at the right time? I don't believe in coincidences. We are being shown the truth, in my opinion. Are you ready to see something today that you can't find in a textbook? We will be getting to the Illinois State Capitol building today, so get ready. I also have something at the end that blew my mind, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you all. So today, I'm taking a trip to a lot of places. We're gonna be checking out some crazy stuff. Buildings that have wild stories. Architecture that does not fit the mainstream timeline. And as always, a lot more. This is all made possible thanks to our Patreons, badge members, everyone who has bought merch and sent super chats. Also when you like, comment, and subscribe. Let's begin with the Streeter Public Library, where we are told the construction began in 1902, and it just popped up January 31st, 1903, which again, we've definitely proven that in episode 41, using artificial intelligence, that this is logistically impossible, and now they are currently restoring it. At this point, restoration, in my eyes, means destruction and removal, especially when the landing in front of the murals are blocked off to the public and the front entrance is closed to the general public. Let's set the tone for this episode. The murals have never been cleaned since they were supposedly installed in 1905. And here we go. And severe smoke damage occurred to the murals in 1945 when the library had a fire in the boiler room. All right, so we get the nod. We have a hidden restoration process by our incredibly advanced society. Joking, of course. And can we just look at this AI-generated name for a second? This is right in your face kind of stuff. What is the guy's name that supposedly painted the murals? I'm not even gonna say it, because if I do, well, you know what it would say. Once you have eyes to see, this kind of stuff just honestly is so in your face and childish. And we all know about how these incredible architects, painters, supervisors, and the rest are killed off immediately after the job is done, or right in the middle of it. So let's take a look at this together. The murals were done in 1905. What year do you think this guy dies in? Well, let's take a closer look. The project is done in 1905, and he's dead in 1905 in New York City? Interesting. By suicide. Now, of course, they care so much about our society that they will close the library down and paint over things that the public should not be seeing. Okay, so we have a very interesting story here, and I want to continue to our next building because we have a lot of cool stuff to see that gets even more in depth. So this takes us to the University Hall in Lincoln, Illinois. Take a look at this thing. What year do you think they started this project? To be able to finally complete it all the way back in 1866. You guessed it. If you had 1865 on your bingo card, you are the winner. Right in the middle of the Civil War. No problem at all. This is crazy. Think about this. The entire building, from start to finish, was done in less than a year. And again, we have episode 41 to back us up. This isn't even close to possible. From the planning to getting the materials to the site, to actually building it and hiring a construction team. All of the actual logistics that go into a project, building anything like this in a year in the 1800s was impossible. This is a complete lie, especially when we are told that it wasn't even built or constructed. It was founded. Just so we are clear, you don't find your house. You build your house. Your house is constructed. It isn't found. And we have the classic windows that are at the current ground level, which is a clear sign that this building is bigger than we can see. Look at this door that is literally under the ground level. These are not basements for anyone that is on the fence. We have shown that this is a clear sign that there is most likely a tunnel system connecting all of these buildings together. So I highly recommend watching episode 42 after this episode if you are new to the channel. This will 100% clear up what we were talking about. You even have this building right next door that has the exact same thing going on, with windows at ground level. Now, of course, less than a mile away, we have the Logan County Courthouse. And this courthouse is also getting destroyed. Renovated. Other iconic features of the Logan County Courthouse are the four-faced clocks and stained glass interior domes. So they are repainting the clocks. And as for the stained glass interior dome, it was removed a few years ago, of course. And once all the changes and destruction is done, oh, did I say destruction? Repairs, but yeah, destruction. It will be reinstalled, but we don't know when that will be, of course. Wow, okay. Now I'm going to prove another point right here. So there's always issues that come up in the world, right? There are time periods such as the Civil War, the Great Depressions, freezing winters. Now, in current day construction, these are all real issues that we actually have to talk about and actually happen. But the 1800s, apparently, this was no problem. And the buildings always got done in like 9 months. Never an issue. So let's prove this point right here. In March 2020, Logan County got the money to repair the courthouse. However, 2020 brought its own challenges. Walters said repairs halted during this time period that we all just went through. Then he and his team were met with labor issues and increased material costs. This is honestly normal. This is what happens when constructing things. Things sometimes come up. Things happen that slow the process of construction down. How is it, though, that 200 years ago, this kind of stuff never happened? There was no construction issues. They never had a labor issue. They never had a shortage of construction workers. They never had weather issues or anything that would slow the process of construction down. Everything just worked out back then. Every time. Everywhere in the world. It amazes me that buildings in the 1800s, where they did not even have a road completed, were simply constructed in a year. Or less, with no issues. Yet our current civilization can't even restore it in a shorter amount of time than it took to construct the entire building 120 years ago. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. This is a different building in Ohio, but I just want to show you what I'm talking about. The Logan County Courthouse in Ohio, because the AI can't come up with a new name for these buildings, it's so repetitive, but that's not the point here. This one was built in 1870, yet took our civilization 6 years to renovate it. In 1870, it was easy and they could just construct the entire thing so fast. No, it isn't possible for every single town in the 1800s to fully understand the construction process. Every single architect to be perfect, and no understanding of where these people were trained. What school did they go to? They were all incredible? At some point, you gotta question this. At some point, it doesn't make sense. And I think we're at that point. So they build these incredible buildings, they just throw them together in a year, and then they go home and live in a shed, suffering in the winters with bonnets. The narrative is insane. Oh, and remember, we showed that the University Hall, right down the street, was founded. Do we all want to take a guess what else was founded in 1839? 184 years ago? You got it. The Logan County Courthouse was also founded. Incredible. So we have a lot of founded things in this town. They give us this nice picture, even though it's fake and just a drawing. Now for the Illinois State Capitol building. At first, when we first got there, I was really upset that we had another old world building under construction. If you go back and watch my Boots on the Ground playlist, it's actually unbelievable how many times these buildings are under some sort of construction. It's reminding me a lot of the fire narratives, where if it's an old world building, they have to put some sort of construction machine next to the building. Repetition is a clue, and it means that you need to look closer into it. So yeah, I was upset at first about the construction, because we wouldn't be able to go inside or get up close to the building. Until I took my camera across the road, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Call it what you want, but timing is everything. The old world exposed underground, showing us that these buildings are massive, so much bigger than we can see underground. And this hole right here in the side of the building looks like yet another tunnel entrance. Is this a tunnel that we just got on camera? If you're unsure, again, I'm gonna recommend it. After this episode, I suggest watching episode 42, Tunnels Below Our Feet. Did they just destroy a tunnel with this construction process? To me, that is exactly what it looks like. And I'd love to hear what your opinion is about the entrance to the lower part of the Capitol building in the comments below. I don't think that was something we were ever meant to see. If we were here any other time, we would have missed this. Now that we have this sort of thing on film, it breaks down the walls. And it's no longer a speculation. I think we just found a tunnel system that runs underneath Springfield, Illinois. And then we have this castle that is now owned by the state and repurposed into the Illinois State Military Museum. I've contacted a member of the staff for the building because they honestly have zero information about it anywhere. And they have not emailed me back, of course. The crazy thing about this place is that it's located right next to the Illinois State Capitol building and the Supreme Court clerk. The same one that the Illinois State Archive building held zero archives about. Incredible buildings, all right next to each other, which is normally the case. Once you find one of these buildings from the past civilization, there is normally so many more that are so out of place, all right next to each other. This changes everything about where we are. There's so many lies right in front of our face. How did we all just walk past these buildings for so many years and not think anything of it? And once you know the truth, you don't go back to walking past the old world buildings and thinking nothing of it. Now, exactly a half a mile away, on the dot, from the Illinois State Capitol building, we have the Union Station in Springfield. Now, this part gets very interesting, as they're gonna try to explain how the main source of transportation got here. And it's about to get really eye-opening, so get ready. On December 21st, 1907, a fire started. It started at the Johnston Hatcher building. It destroyed the eastern half of the 600 block on East Adams Street. So in my opinion, a ton of old world buildings gone to this planned demolition. Now for the best part of this paragraph. This will all tie in with the train station, but here we go. The fire stopped only when the blaze hit the Bessemer building, which was built to be fireproof. No, it wasn't. It was a failed attempt because that exact same building, 40 years later, was burned down by a fire. It's unbelievable. And to take it a step further, let's go even deeper. They are going to try and explain this away with some stupid lighting his pipe story, but that didn't work because he starts talking and said he didn't have a pipe or matches. So the officials had to jump in. And who are these trustworthy people? And because they tell the world that they are officials, whatever they say will be what happened, and everybody will believe it. They said a short circuit in the wiring beneath the window ignited the cotton after the pipe story didn't work out. So ridiculous. They had to make something up because he ran his mouth and called them out on their lie. They destroyed these buildings, in my opinion. And I say my opinion, but there's an overwhelming amount of evidence to support this. And of course, that wouldn't be the only evidence that I use. Let's go even deeper. To prove this point, firefighters were back at 7th and Adams on October 11th, 1913, so 6 years later, when another spectacular fire demolished the new Johnston Hatcher building. Once again, flames then swept west along the same half block of Adams Street. Although, what do you know? The fire comes to a complete halt when it reaches the amazing Bessemer building that we already know does burn down. So obviously this was a planned demolition, a controlled one to be exact. This does not happen. There were obviously things in this town from the old world, a past civilization that they did not want us to see. And of course, they don't even try this time to explain how this fire started. But this 1913 fire is where we will tie in the Union Station, because this is where the fire destroyed it. And it's weird that they say there was an original. As you can see here, when we all know the so-called second Union Station was the original, and they demolished it. And here it says, it was subsequently rebuilt with a more modern design. A more modern design? Of course it was. Unbelievable. Let's please just take a look at this picture for a minute. We have dirt roads. I need everyone here to understand that in order to ride a horse and pull the wagon with hundreds of pounds of brick in the wagon, they would need a paved road. The wheels that they had would sink right into this dirt. The wheels were pathetic, especially if it was raining that week. And you know, sometimes it does rain. I know in the 1800s they want to pretend that there's never any rain or ever any snow, but there was. And this is just another example that will prove how incredible the tunnel systems from episode 42 are. They had incredible tunnels that were in every town, connecting all of these buildings together, which we've shown, with limestone walls. Yet they didn't have a road? They did have a road, in my opinion, and it's underneath all of this dirt. It's so backwards, and this is why we are questioning things. So this was their wheel. Good luck. Not gonna happen. In my opinion, this train station was here. Trains were here in the past civilization, and it was not thousands of years ago. It was very recent, and our history is a complete lie. We are told that the train was brand new within the last few hundred years, when in reality, it has been here time and time again. And this was the past civilization's train station. And this was the past civilization's town. And then it's no wonder it's Illinois' state capital now. It's incredible. And it was destroyed in 1907 and 1903. And wait, what is this? No, they had another fire in 1921? Are you kidding me? The fire destroyed the old world building. I mean, the 1920s building. Along with the cars, and of course, the Hatchers replaced the burned building with a smaller service facility and a car wash. I was also going to check out the Western Clock Manufacturing Company building, located in Peru, Illinois. Interesting name for a town. But that one was destroyed by a fire as well, on New Year's Day, 2012. Perfect timing for a clock company to burn down. New Year's Day, right on the dot. Destroying the old world with more fires. We all understand that brick and stone does not burn from a random house fire. These, in my opinion, are demolitions. So we have cowboys and Indians from 1865 to 1895. Cowboys and Indians. Yet we have massive construction projects going on all around the world, all over America. And at the same exact time, we have the Civil War, supposedly going on in 1861. Yet massive cathedrals were easily constructed in every city, everywhere. And no problem, it was easy. The mainstream narrative does not add up. We have the Montgomery County Courthouse in Illinois that was supposedly thrown together in less than 24 months, nearly 200 years ago. And then you have the Carnahan Courthouse, located in St. Louis, Missouri, the exact site of the 1904 World's Fair. There were 2 phases in the construction of this incredible building. The first phase began in 1929, and the building was done in 1930. Simple. Then the second phase of construction, which included the eastern half of the courthouse, began in 1935 and was done in 1937. Now, like we have mentioned, we have proven through AI ChatGPT that this narrative is impossible. Nobody was building these courthouse structures in 1 year, anywhere in the 1800s. And then you can call up the State Archives building yourself, which we did, and they will have 0 information on it, just like we have shown in this exact episode. There is 0 mention of any construction company that was used in this project, because there was no construction company. It was from a past civilization, and they thought we would never ask, but we are. And it's completely destroying the mainstream narrative. The same lying narrative that has taken decades upon decades to work on, attempting to trick children year after year into thinking that this is the truth. But as soon as one of us hear the real truth, we are now interested, and we begin questioning the lies that have been told to us. And once you begin to question these lies about the mainstream narrative on these buildings, the lies never hold up, obviously. They make 0 sense, and we are never given all the details. The facts that would be necessary for us to trust the mainstream narrative. We would need so many more details, such as who was the construction company? Where did the materials come from? How many horses were used? How much water did the horses need? And how was that set up for them to be properly hydrated in the summer months? Were there places for the workers to stay so they could get up early and actually work on the construction and get the job done? How many men were used? Was there ever an issue with the construction process? And on and on and on. But this is about to get insane, and I have been waiting a while to show you all this. So you're definitely going to want to see this. Here we go. Now, the actual website says that it was built in 1828, saying it opened its first courthouse, not 1928 like we were previously told. In a book called Contemporary American Sculpture that was published in 1929, a year before the building was completed, it already listed that the building was done and of Rebeck's work. So was the narrator getting ahead of itself, thinking that nobody would catch that flaw? I believe so. And they have stories about freedom going on in the building in 1850. So the story is all over the place when you go from site to site. And this is when we know we're onto them. And then we dive deeper. And this is when we look around and find things that are insane and completely blow the narrative open. And that's exactly what we did. First of all, this looks like it's on the ground level, something we have seen so many times all around the world. Are there a lot more structures that have columns like this that are so much deeper and hidden by dirt underground? That's exactly what's going on, in my opinion. Now, as we zoom in on the top of this 386-foot high building, that is most likely even bigger than that, we will see 2 Sphinx-like ornaments. They are 20 feet long, 11 and a half feet high, which has a room underneath them. Hold on. What am I reading here? The Griffins, with the aluminum of the roof, form a huge lightning conductor, which is connected with the grouch by concealed wires. Griffins, free energy, technology from the past civilization right in front of our faces. The Sphinxes were given human faces instead of the lion's face, lion meaning Griffin, in order to symbolize mercy, tempering justice. Sure. Yeah. I'm going to end this episode with this thought that I'm about to tell you, because I think it's an unbelievable find and could open up a massive door on so-called ancient Egypt. And I really want you all to think about this one. Here we go. We have the pyramid on top of the building, just like in Giza. And in Giza, something is missing from the top of the pyramid. Did they remove the griffins from the top of the Giza pyramid? And the faces on the griffins in St. Louis were changed from a lion to a man, exactly like the ones in Egypt. And these are griffin paws, in my opinion. Were the Sphinxes in Egypt also generating power, just like these ones? And when you look at the $1 bill in the USA, it shows the all-seeing eye being removed from the top of the pyramids. Is this just symbolism for them removing the Griffins and removing the previous civilization from our history? And were the ones in Egypt, just like the ones in St. Louis, Missouri, here on top of the courthouse building, actually Griffins? I'm gonna come right out and say it. I think the Sphinx in Egypt was actually a Griffin, and it's been defaced. And yes, I believe Griffins were most likely removed from the top of the Giza pyramids. Identical to what we see in St. Louis. Was ancient Egypt not that ancient? And it was actually Grand Tartaria? We're going to be going back into St. Louis today, as well as other places. We have even more to share about this incredible city, as well as this general location. I want to show you all something that is hidden under a layer of grass. And if we just removed the grass, we all know at this point what we would find. But how incredible is it? Let's find out today. And I want to show you all something massive, something that is sitting right in front of our faces and has been our entire lives, and in my opinion, for multiple civilizations, and won't be going anywhere anytime soon. And that is the 227-foot tall St. Louis Basilica, which has a seating capacity of 2,500 people. So let's take the camera and go inside this basilica and dive deep into this mainstream narrative today. Now, if we want a true representation of the year 1907, supposedly the exact same year that this St. Louis Basilica construction began, then we need to see what was supposedly going on during this year. We are told that this was the panic of 1907, the first worldwide financial crisis of the 20th century, and also the perfect time to begin the $3 million, or converted into 2023, the $98.23 million project. It's actually the worst possible time to begin a project like this. This narrative is already sounding off, and when you find major flaws like this, we know that we have a green light to dig deeper. So let's begin with exposing the supposed architects, Barrett, Haynes, and Barrett. Reoccurring names, yet again, which we've seen so many times in so many episodes, which is just another giveaway that this name is AI generated. But let's continue. Let's see what this group was up to from 1907 to 1914. The exact same years that we were told that this basilica was built in. You would think that this incredible basilica, that none of us have ever seen anything close to this be constructed today, or at any point in our lifetimes, you would think that these architects would be fully focused on this specific building and making sure that it went perfect. They wouldn't be off building another building at the exact same time, would they? Well, they started 2 other projects at the exact same time as the St. Louis Basilica, because they were just that incredible. And not only that, during the exact same time period that they were supposedly building this massive structure that we've never seen built in our lifetimes, they were able to direct their attention to 4 other states and 13 other buildings, all during the financial crisis. Starting to sound off a little? Should we keep going? Let's do it. This was constructed, right? It wasn't? It wasn't founded in 1914. So we have another building that is found, and it's right in front of our faces. You do not find your house. You construct your house, and you build your house. If you need to go back and watch episode 35 for a reminder on the legal definition of the word founded, I suggest doing that after this episode. Here on the Basilica's website, we begin to find reoccurring words, and it gets really strange. The probability of this type of verbiage reoccurring in all of these narratives is mathematically impossible. Here we go. This is going to be another proof that the narrative is written and generated by the AI in the exact same sentence. We find a completely made-up story to attempt to trick us into thinking that it's a real event and giving it legs to stand on. Here we go. The altar was the gift of Mr. and Mrs. William Cullen McBride, whose daughter, Kathleen, would become the new cathedral's first bride. So in your face. The McBrides get the first bride. Of course they do. Now, remember, there's never any details on the actual construction process, because the construction never actually took place in this timeline. They do not explain how many men were used in the construction. This wasn't thousands of years ago. There should also be photographs of the building's construction. The camera was invented in 1816, so there should be something at this point, but there's nothing. Thomas P. Barnett was the architect for the St. Louis Basilica. His father, George I. Barnett, not a real photo, even though they had cameras in the 1800s, especially for supposedly famous people. Now I'll tie this back in really quick here, but I want to show you all the repetition again and how obvious the lie is when you can see from this side of the board. So George finished his amazing training in England at the age of 16 and then trained with Thomas Hine. So we have another Thomas. Do we remember that his son is also Thomas? So 2 out of the 3 names are Thomas. And not only do we have this weird fact about George, but we also have this, to prove my point, that these are all fictional characters, especially anyone doing anything significant before 1850. They don't even know how old he was when he died, because they don't give us his actual birth date. Remember, again, this is not 1,000 years ago. They know all about him when he was 16, but no clue when he was born. And these are the people that we are supposed to trust with our history. Now, are you ready to expose this thing and show how this is mathematically impossible? Are you ready to see how this is all scripted and, in my opinion, not real people? Here we go. There are 4 people involved in this story, and we are very deep right now into this. So just bear with me. 4 people. We have the father, George I. Barnett. We have his 2 sons, Thomas Barnett and George D. Barnett. And then we also have one more guy involved in this supposed architect firm, John I. Haynes, that are all connected in the weirdest way possible and proves that this is mathematically impossible and a total lie. So here we go. We have all 4 of these people right here, both Georges, Tom, and brother-in-law John. The father, George, was born in 1815 and died in 1898. The odds of him being born on December 29th, 30th, or 31st are 0.008%. So he died at the age of 82, since he most likely did not have his birthday yet in 1898. Now let's take a look at John Haynes, the son-in-law to George. He was born in 1860 and died in 1942. What are the odds that he also dies at the age of 82, just like George? And then we can take a look at both of George's sons. Let's start with George, the kid. He was born in 1863 and died in 1922. So he died at the age of 59. What are the odds that the other brother, Thomas, also dies at the age of 59? What are the odds that these 4 characters are all connected? Thomas P. Barnett, born February 11th, 1970, died September 23rd, 1929, at the age of 59. Can you see with open eyes now? Do you see how this is all here for us to find? All we have to do is look. These are characters. This building is not from our civilization. It is from a previous civilization, and we are being lied to about how it got here. There are clues within each one of these narratives. It is up to us to find them and expose them. And what are the odds that the exact same year that the St. Louis Basilica is found, the Barnett, Hayes, and Barnett Architects Company dissolves? What are the odds? You all know what I think about that. I want to point one more thing out about this narrative that I found, and you tell me what you think about this. On WikiTree, I found John Haynes, and we were told that he married into this Barnett family, with George being his father-in-law. We are told this multiple times, but when you go on WikiTree and we find this character, it starts to get even more strange, because it says that he was the husband to Harriet Haynes, which is obviously his last name, but let's click on her name. And what do you know? She is not related to George Barrett. Her family name originally being Hellery. Her dad was Henry Hellery, having 0 relation to George Barrett. And this is the same John Haynes guy, being involved in the Barrett and Taylor firm as a draftsman. This is all proving that the narrative is a total fabrication. It is all over the place and shouldn't be trusted at all. When I am told one lie, I begin to question it. But when I am told an overwhelming amount of nonsense by the mainstream narrator, like we have been today, the narrator has lost my trust forever. This is not the first time. We have hours and hours of documented evidence showing that the mainstream narrative is not to be trusted at all. Here we have the mounds, which is only 10 miles away from St. Louis, but in my opinion, all connected to the past civilization. It's very clear that this specific location on the grid is of importance. In my opinion, these are all areas on the map that the Earth gives off a natural energy that is extremely powerful, that the past civilization was able to take advantage of. Do the so-called controllers of our current civilization know this and take advantage of this today? I would say yes. And it's weird because you have pyramids all over the place. They're everywhere. Maybe not as big as the monks' pyramid, but there were a lot of them that have been destroyed in the last 100 years. This one is actually still here, which is exactly how our construction works today. It just lasts forever. Oh, it doesn't? No, it doesn't. And it's so weird just looking at these pictures. They look so out of place. And they look out of place because they are. And we know this here. But you look at the ground and it looks so fresh, like brand new topsoil that you buy from Home Depot. Like the grounds crew just got done raking it and getting it ready to be shown off to the public. It's honestly so weird. And what are these people doing? They don't even look real. Where are they walking to? They all look dressed up and just taking a stroll. My opinion is that those are Photoshop people. We have seen this kind of thing so many times, where they don't show any faces, and the people don't fit in with the picture. Exactly how the building, or in this case pyramid, doesn't fit in our timeline. This one was from Italy and was allegedly built in 12 BC. Oh, in only 6 years. Because of course they know the exact start and finish dates of things from 2,000 years ago. But they don't know the exact same information from only 100 years ago. And we have shown this time and time again. Over 2,000 years ago? Yet Abe Lincoln was born in a shack? So yeah, I'm not buying that nonsense. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff that gives it all away. And why we are questioning the mainstream nonsense. They can build a pyramid 2,000 years ago, and then our civilization is brainwashed and is supposed to believe that we have evolved so much after 1,800 years that we are now being born in sheds. I can't speak for everyone, but I am not going to sit here and just accept that. As I walked around this site, it is 2,200 acres. So it's obviously massive. And this story that they're going to try and tell us is nonsense. There is the Monk's Mound, which is the main one. And I say mound, but I really mean pyramid. And I'm going to call it the Monk's Pyramid from now on. This is no random mound of dirt, and this is very clear. Yet they brushed it off as a mound in its title. None of these are mounds. They're all pyramids, and they're all connected. Monk's Pyramid is 100 feet high, 955 feet long, and 775 feet wide, making it the same size at its base as the Great Pyramid of Giza, right here next to St. Louis. Let's continue on to this paragraph. The perimeter of its base is larger than the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. All right, so we have something massive and extremely important here, covered by a layer of dirt and grass. If the layer of grass was removed and exposed what is really under it, the entire USA narrative would be completely shredded and thrown in the garbage, as it should be. People would be so confused why there's a massive pyramid and other pyramids connected to each other. It's a 2,200 acre site. Construction of the Monk's Pyramid began about 1,123 years ago, so they say, on a site that has already been occupied by buildings. Already had buildings? I'm sorry, what? In the year 900, they already had buildings? So at the same time, over in Italy, we have the St. Mark's Basilica being built in a time period before they even knew how to make paper, supposedly. So Italy is building this, and then we have massive pyramids and buildings being built in the USA by the Mississippian culture, which is completely ridiculous. Because if they can build massive pyramids, then they can build a better hut than this to live in. The narrative is contradicting itself, because 850 years later, we get cowboys and Indians, and everyone is freezing in the winters in their shed. And so we're on the same page. The St. Mark's Basilica and these pyramids were built in the year 850 to 900, supposedly. And then we have all kinds of basilicas and massive structures being constructed for centuries in this ridiculous timeline that we're given. And then once 1900 hits, we are no longer able to construct the St. Mark's Basilica, or a Cologne Cathedral, or a Milan Cathedral. It is very clear that there was a reset, and our timeline is a complete fabrication, in my opinion. Now, if you're on the fence, this should help bring you over. If this was a narrative that you would stand by, blindly accepting no matter what, I think this is the time to reconsider. Since you would be backing up a mainstream narrative theory that is, by admission, a theory and not at all proven, botanical or a substance from a plant that they found that remains from the Monk Pyramid, suggests it was built much more quickly than previously thought, suggests, perhaps, maybe, on the order of several consecutive decades, but we don't know. It might be, providing an alternative view of its construction history. And there we have it. The mainstream narrative cannot explain these structures because they don't fit into the mainstream timeline. A much more logical explanation is that the previous civilization was here, an extremely advanced civilization. Should we blow this narrative away? Should we expose it and show that they are not being truthful with us? Should we show that it's not from 1,000 years ago? Let's do it. Thomas I. Ramey, who bought the site in 1864, of course, as soon as the 1800s hit, like we talked about, this was when they had to figure out the narrative, and this site was not fitting in. They tell us that an era of more responsible ownership began. What a joke. Many artifacts were found at or near the surface. Really? Finding the old world's things and removing them so that we don't see. Very interesting. So there were things here in the 1800s that would have been important for our research. Ramey had a tunnel made, or did he locate one? After everything we have seen, even in the last 5 episodes, do you think this guy made a tunnel, or do you think he found one? And of course, they brush it off and say that the tunnel revealed nothing of historic interest. I'm sorry, but the first time I read that, I laughed out loud. Could this be any more in your face and right on point with what we are talking about? Tunnels, removing things from the site, all once our new civilization's timeline hits. Not in the 1400s or 1600s, no. Right when the mid-1800s hit, this all takes place. Incredible. And if you thought I was crazy, thinking that removing the dirt would expose the past civilization's work, let me show you what I'm talking about and exactly why they keep this thing covered up with grass and dirt. In 1970, they adopted an incredible strategy, one that only a genius would ever think to do, scraping away the topsoil. Unbelievable. They dug down 2 feet, and this quickly revealed various features, including what appeared to be the outline of the temple. 2 feet under the dirt, we have a temple. We have something unbelievable. This is not a mound. This is a pyramid. And I'm sure the architecture is insane and unexplainable in this make-believe mainstream narrative timeline, which is why it's covered up with dirt and grass, as well as the rest of the 2,200 acres of pyramids. This technique was, of course, opposed by professional archaeologists. So they stopped because they found too much and would shatter their lie. Wow. Now here in the preservation section, they're going to try and explain how it stays in perfect condition for hundreds and hundreds of years. But right when the 1950s hit, all of these random natural catastrophes happen. And of course, accidentally damage the clay layers within. Can you believe it? I don't. And to put a nail in this narrative, once and for all, they say this was a clay structure, but workers discovered a mass of stone deep within the mound. This is a stone structure, not a clay structure. And we are being lied to about this pyramid at every turn, covered by dirt. And the previous civilization's work is hidden in plain sight. I also went to the St. Louis Art Museum, which had the exact same interior layout as the Field Museum in Chicago, which is very strange. We all know these buildings were not built originally to be museums, but honestly, just standing in them makes you feel as if you're in a building created for giants. The doorways are massive. The ceilings are so high, it doesn't make sense for a civilization that is short and struggling through the tough times, and without proper architecture education, and going home to their huts and riding around on donkeys to be constructing massive Greco-Roman buildings, all to just show off some bones that were made in China? That was not the true reason, and we all know this. The view from the top of these pyramids were incredible, being able to see the city of St. Louis from the top. It was very cool. And I want to leave you all with this thought. While walking up to the pyramids and just using our knowledge, and with everything else that we know about this topic, it really made me wonder how much bigger underground this pyramid really is.